Hello, my fellow crewmates and other guests. Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Set, behind-the-scenes stories from the film and television industry told by the crew members who live them. I'm Eric EMoney Sievers, and today I have 3 new stories for you. Before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on your notifications, and if you like, give me a thumbs up. Alright, our first story today comes from Facebook user Douglas W. I was a PA on a film set in 1988. We were working 22-hour days, so I only lasted 3 days. They had a lot of turnover. So on my last day, I was watching the trucks on Wilshire while the crew was shooting a car chase scene in a parking garage half a block away inside the property. You could hear the tires screeching and the cars crashing. So a pedestrian comes up to me and asks what we're filming. I tried to give him a synopsis of the film, and that only confused the guy, and he eventually left. A more seasoned crew guy told me just tell them it's a mayonnaise commercial and that will get rid of them fast. So a moment later, this well-dressed woman comes up to me and asked what we were filming, and I said a mayonnaise commercial. She got all excited. A mayonnaise commercial? I have a client that just got a mayonnaise commercial. It must be him. So she walks down the hill to the garage. You can still hear the cars crashing over and over. A few minutes later, she comes marching up the hill in her high heels straight for me and tells me in my face, "It isn't a mayonnaise commercial." I said, "Lady, yesterday it was a mayonnaise commercial. Today, who knows?" Side note, I never got paid for that job. Okay, so 2 things. I had an incident with a job I did where I didn't get paid for 6 months. In cases like that, I recommend filing a complaint with the labor department of whatever state you're working in. If it's a SAG project, you should also contact them as well. Secondly, for those who don't know, when you're doing lockups for shoots like this, saying it's a mayonnaise commercial is kind of the industry standard. I learned this working as a PA, I just didn't know it went back this far, this guy saying it was in 1988. I've actually become a little more blunt with people depending on the circumstances. There are always people who come nosing around wondering what you're filming, and in most cases it is absolutely none of their business. It will not affect your life in any way what we're doing here, just move along. So in relation to that, I actually have a little personal bonus story to share with you guys. A few years ago, I was working as a PA on a docuseries. We were filming an interview inside this guy's apartment in a pretty shady neighborhood, so everybody was pretty on edge as it was. As the crew was unloading gear from the vehicles, this older guy pulls up in a pickup truck with the window rolled down. He immediately addresses me. "Hey, buddy, what are you people doing over here?" Thinking he's just another nosy neighbor, I tell him bluntly, "Don't worry about it." Well, that set him off. "Don't tell me not to worry about it. I'm the effing building manager and I'll worry about whatever I want." Now, if he had opened with that, I might have been a little more polite. Luckily, I didn't have to interact with him anymore as the production manager went to him and she set him straight. On a side note, the guy was being a bit sexist. As I was the only guy on an otherwise all-female crew, he automatically assumed that I was the one in charge and addressed me. Okay, so that is your bonus story today. Here is your second official story. This one comes from Facebook user Gary M. Now, normally I take a few details out of the story to protect people involved, but this one is actually a feel-good story, so I decided to leave the details in. We were shooting The Siege in Williamsburg right in front of Peter Luger's. I had to blow up a bus, a real city bus, and then stage the aftermath of the explosion. Leading up to the explosion, Denzel Washington acts as the hostage negotiator, and we had 8 to 9 pages of dialogue with 45 to 50 police and fire picture cars in the shot. Also, right in front of the shot was an Orthodox synagogue, and we did all activity in and out of the temple on cuts and rolls. Day 2 of shooting, I get word that the rabbi wants to see me. I go in to see him and he tells me one of the temple's members has passed away, and in keeping with the Jewish faith, the services will be held the next day. Right in front of the synagogue, right in the middle of our shot. As I talk to the rabbi, a woman walks over to us, tiny, very old woman. The rabbi introduces me, this is his wife. He tells her about the movie and about the issue the next day with the funeral. The woman says to me in a very heavy Yiddish accent, "Who is in your movie?" I say, "We have Bruce Willis, Annette Bening, Tony Shalhoub, Denzel Washington," and she jumps up. "Denzel? Denzel? Where is the Denzel? Bring him to me, the Denzel." So I head back to camera, explain to Ed Zwick, my director, about the funeral, then also about the rabbi's wife. He and I go to Denzel's trailer and pitch the idea of a visit to the synagogue. Denzel is all for it and we walk over. We don't get 5 feet into the synagogue and the rabbi's wife grabs Denzel in a bear hug and almost knocks him to the ground. 5 minutes of pleasantries, photos, and another hug, and we head back to camera. As I leave, the rabbi calls back to me. "We postpone funeral. Do it another day when you are finished." And he winks at me. Last day of shooting, Denzel goes back over and brings the rabbi's wife a nice signed picture, and she was over the moon. Okay, I just have to say, I love this story. It's so nice to hear that Denzel was willing to do that, both to help out the production and also doing a nice thing for the lady at the synagogue. I never get tired of hearing about celebrities doing nice things like this. And this last story is from Facebook user Colin C. Was a locations PA on a series we were filming next to a charity kitchen in a government facility. LM gave explicit directions not to interrupt the kitchen no matter what. AD is screaming at me to shut up the sound in the kitchen. I had to go into the kitchen, let all the employees know that I will be coming in every take, telling them to shut up but to ignore me and keep working. Then I spent the day explaining to AD after every take that the kitchen staff just won't listen to us and there's nothing we can do. Eventually, a producer suggested I pay all the staff $100 to leave for the day. When I went in, everybody was packing their stuff up to leave anyway. I just paid them on the way out the door and acted like the bribe worked, and the producer was satisfied with himself for solving the problem. The staff didn't mind the tip either. Okay, that's brilliant. When you're a PA and at the bottom of the food chain on a production, one of your responsibilities can be to try to shut people up who are making noise nearby, usually because the higher-ups like the producers and the directors don't want to deal with it. It can get pretty awkward asking people who have nothing to do with the production and are usually just trying to do their jobs to stop doing it. But in this case, it turned out pretty well for everyone. And that is this week's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And remember, if you have your own tale from the set, leave it here in the comments or write about it on Reddit, and I may just use it in a future video. Hope you guys have a great week.